Hello and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast for another episode discussing the two games that we've had over the last week or so, and two games without a defeat for Wolves, both in the Premier League and the FA Cup. So we'll discuss that action and look at it in a little bit more detail. My name is Dave. Alongside me today, we've got Mr. Jord Russell and Tom Parker as well, making his return to the podcast. Tom, good to see you, mate. How are you keeping?
Yeah, not too bad. On the dizzy highs of a 0-0 and a 1-0 win, 2 clean sheets in a row. Never known anything like it this season. Yeah, glad to be on. Glad to be back on. Always love doing the podcast. So thanks for having me back.
No problem. And you well into your J League at the moment. Is that season only just kicked off, or are we well into the Japanese season now?
Yeah. So at the moment there's like basically a special tournament going on between Feb and June because the Japanese league's changing its calendar to match ours, basically. So instead of waiting January to August with no football, they've basically plonked a what's called the Vision League in the middle. So they're going to play that tournament out, and then that gives them. I mean, it's a major trophy. Whoever wins it, like the top one, gets Asian Champions League qualifications. It's a pretty big deal.
That's all right.
Yeah. But it's done the rounds on Twitter because it went viral because someone tweeted that the Japanese domestic football had changed its rules so that if games ended in draws, they went to penalty shootouts, which is the case for this league, but it's only for this league. But it did like 20, 30k likes. So like a bunch of people thought that it was like a genuine change. But yeah, so it's done a few rounds on like social media. People are like interested in it. So yeah, it's been good. I do like the TikTok stuff. That's been getting some traction. So yeah, there's an audience for it. So yeah, see where it goes.
Yeah. Do you want something to keep you busy then between now and the NFL coming back?
Yeah, I don't think I can get another spot. I think I'll get divorced. So I'm running into it, to be honest.
Yeah, time zones are terrible, to be fair.
Yeah. Have you been keeping anyway, Jord?
Yeah, no, all good. Struggling with a bit of a headachy thing today, but honestly, yeah, all good. I thought, it's good to come back on here and actually talk about no defeats for a change, which again has really been sort of a bane of our lives. This podcast coming on to talk about another defeat. So it's actually not just come on where we've had 2 games, 2 clean sheets, and we actually managed to win one as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose the performances aren't much to sing about, but I suppose we'll get into that a little bit more. But you are right, 2 clean sheets for Wolves, 2 games on the road as well. Recording this Sunday night, I've just got back myself from Grimsby. Very cold and very wet Grimsby Town, but we'll get into that one later on. And we'll talk about the Nottingham Forest game to kick off. It was another point on the board for Wolves in the Premier League, a 0-0 draw against Nottingham Forest. Ultimately, a result that got Forest manager Sean Dyche sacked. An old friend of ours, Vitor Pereira, returning to the Premier League to take his place. So thankfully, we haven't got to face off against Forest and Pereira again this season, and it'll be very interesting to see if he's the man to make sure they stay in the Premier League. Tom, in terms of lineup, if you can cast your mind back to there, I think that was pretty much the lineup I would have picked. I mean, ignoring the result and the overall performance, but I mean, in terms of the players that Rob Edwards had available to him there, it's probably close to the lineup that I would have selected if you were the same.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was nice to see us kind of return back to the tried and tested, really. I don't think the back four was predominantly the reason that we got a bit torn apart against Chelsea. I think it was more so a personnel issue within the back four system. But I like that we went with the front two with Rockadair and Armstrong. For me, Armstrong was probably brought in to be that kind of replacement for Hwang, who, is a good runner in space, can like drive with the ball fairly well. But for me, Armstrong is a good player to kind of fit into that with the Rockadair. We haven't quite seen the chemistry hit just yet, but they've only played 2 games together, so no concerns there. But yeah, it was a good team. The midfield I was a little bit concerned with at first. I did think that João Gomez and Angel Gomez as a pair might have been a little bit lightweight for Forest's midfield, but as it turns out, to be honest, apart from some really pretty terrifying counterattacks from Forest that they didn't kind of take, I actually thought they were fine. They did a good job, and it looked very much as though Angel Gomez was the player that Edwards was directing everyone else to kind of feed the ball through. because every time the defence got the ball, they were looking for him to try and switch the play and stuff. So yeah, it was a good lineup. I liked it, and yeah, I mean, it got the job done. So that's all you can ask for, really.
Yeah, I know. Angel Gomez was coming deep quite a lot, sitting alongside the centre halves to pick up that ball. I think his passing range, we saw that against Chelsea. We saw that a little bit against Forest as well. You know, he has got that ability and quality. Jord, the first half in particular, though, raised huge concerns. The amount of attacks and opportunities that Forest had compared to Wolves, who had very, very little quality in that first half. And, you know, Tom mentioned their counter-attacks. There was once where our own attacking free kick ended up with Nottingham Forest having a 5 or 6-on-1 counter-attack. I mean, if you saw that screenshot in isolation, you would have thought it was Forest's own defensive box, the way, you know, they had all those players up there. Thankfully for us, they cocked it up. But that first half performance, I think a lot of people would have labelled that as possibly one of, if not the worst 45 of the season so far.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the whole 90 was, I think you could stick it up there with the, you know, one, you know, like I said, I think it'd sit with the worst performance this season for us. Yeah. One of, I think I thought it was really bad. And the only thing you can take out of that Forest game was that we got a point and we got a clean sheet out of it, really. Yeah, I thought it just felt like the formation was way off. It felt like we were just second best to every ball. Yeah, like I just felt it just didn't feel very like cohesive as a unit or anything like that in terms of, well, more so cohesive in a way of when we were trying to get up the pitch, everything just kept breaking down. I thought for the whole sort of the back three did a good job, and obviously Jose Sarr, you know, made some good saves as well. But I don't care who you are, you know, to concede 35 shots on goal, well, 35 shot attempts on goal in the Premier League is just not acceptable. But when you add to it as well that you're playing the team that are in 17th as well, to add to that, it's just not. It just makes no sense for me how that happened. Yeah, I think I said on the podcast last week, if Forest failed to win, Marinakis would get rid of Deitch, and he did because he's that crazy for it. And I say it's just a good job we're not playing Vita Pereira, because if it was Vita Pereira versus Wolves that night, with those sort of, you know, with that same sort of stat line, it'd have been about 7 or 8-0. So Gibbs White would have got all 8. So that's the only.
Vita Pereira side would have had the handbrake up a lot sooner than that, though. I don't think they would have ever. He would have ever had that match.
I don't know. He might just want pain. He might just think, you know what, I've had a load of shit.
Could you argue though, Jord, that I know I agree the amount of shots it's not acceptable, but in terms of how many clear-cut chances Forest had, Wolves did restrict them to very few, to be fair. I can't remember many big opportunities they should have put in the back of the net.
Relative to the amount of attempts on goal, we kept them to a relatively low number or conversion rate of like actual big chances, I would say. But
yeah,
I mean, and you add to that
what? Still not pre-reading though, and the match momentum was just like completely against us.
It was shocking.
When you had the fact as well, this is a Sean Dyche side who, no disrespect, typically don't have, you know, if you look at a typical Sean Dyche match, you wouldn't have over 3.5 shots a game, let alone 35. It was bad, like really, really bad. And I think all that game did on against Forest was just heap loads of pressure on this weekend, because there's a lot of fans calling for Rob Edwards' head. There was a lot of fans saying, if he loses, he's gone. And to be honest with you, I got it as well. I thought, you know, after how we played in the midweek and then going in today, which was a banana skin before, you know, you took the weather in and everything else, it just added like a load of unnecessary pressure on it. Would have been better off. Would have been better off losing a 2-0 against Forest, but actually where we've actually played all right than what happened, because it felt for the first time, I thought at least, that we are as bad as we are. And I know that might sound daft to say, because we have, you know, after the United game we lost 4, but that should not be happening against Nottingham Forest. I thought it was completely unacceptable.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that about Dyche, because I do agree. Like, he's not known for being that sort of manager. But I can remember, I was just trying to think of previous results. Obviously, we were diabolical under Gary O'Neill, and I think Everton beat us 4-0, was it? And he was in charge of that game. And then during lockdown, did Burnley beat us by 4? And he was their manager.
Yeah, he was manager when Chris Wood hat-trick in the first half. Yeah.
Have we actually scored against a Sean Dyche team in the last 2 years?
Oh, God knows.
Because you're reading those scores off, and I'm actually thinking, when was the last time we actually scored against him?
He wasn't manager when we played Forest earlier this year, was he?
He was, wasn't he? The one at Molineux, the 2-0.
Would he have been there?
No,
1-0, sorry. He was definitely in charge.
Oh, yeah, he might have been, because Nuno.
Yeah. I went to the post-match press conference for that. He was definitely in charge.
Yeah. Well, he probably, Trying to think of the evidence. I don't know. I don't care, actually. So,
to be fair, I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the overall performance, we came into it a little bit more. I think Mane had our 2 best chances of the game. But how typical Wolves would it have been? That last chance, that last shot and goal, that was a golden opportunity.
It was a great chance, yeah.
That would have probably been one of the biggest injustices in Premier League history if that went into the back of the net.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think we would have eaten it up. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Sure.
You know, if you win that game 1, if Mane puts that away, we're happy day. I mean, the performance is still not great. I agree with everything Jord said. To be fair, I know I said earlier, we got the job done, but I mean, it's that's being quite kind. It wasn't fun to watch at all. But again, there was only really 2 clear-cut chances, which was Lucas that he put over the bar, and Jose Sarr produced another godly save. And he does this about 3 or 4 times a season. He produces a save of the season, essentially. I've got no idea how he's kept that out, genuinely. I've watched it several times, and I still don't know how he's got across to that. I think Morato's probably got to do a little bit better, but still a ridiculous save. But yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those, isn't it? If that goes in and it's 1-0, then you've stunk the gaff out and got 3 points, which is
Yeah, I think like George said, there was a lot of pressure on Rob Edwards after that game. I don't think he helped himself with his post-match press conference on TNT, which I saw he did a similar one today after the Grimsby game, which we can maybe get into as well. George, like Tom said there, like Jose Sarr was absolutely diabolical at the start of this season. He's sort of gone out the team, come back in, and he did it's very similar with Vitor Pereira. Obviously, when Vitor Pereira brought him back in when he first came in back in the last season, he played much better, and he's actually been all right since his return back into the team. But like Tom says, every now and then you get a performance like that from Jose Sarr, and he's probably up there with the man of the match for Wolves in the end. With his performance, I don't think anybody else really stood out for me on Wednesday.
He was the man of the match on Wednesday. There was no one else, to be honest with you. And yeah, he made a couple, really good saves. And I think over the top period of goalkeeper Wolves, I do think, he has got his catalogue as a shot stopper. I've never really had any problems with him with that. It's just everything else that goes on with him, and you can guarantee, yeah, he had a man of the match performance against Forest. There will be, from now until the end of the season, I can guarantee you now, he'll make at least 3 clangers. There'll be 3 things that happen between now and the end of the season, which is only a short sample size because he won't play in the cup games, where it will come on here and we'll say, what the fuck was he doing? And that's the reason why he's at Wolves.
Yeah.
Because if he was consistent, his shot-stopping ability, he could go and play for a lot of good clubs around the world, but he's so Jekyll and Hyde that he has got no consistency. And it was a little bit weird that in January, I think it was rumoured that Forest come back in from right before they signed Ortega. So, and because I think he played for Olympiacos, obviously Marinakis. So it'd be interesting to see if I'm not even going to say if, when we go down at this point, like if Forest come back to it for him, if they stay up. As taking the Forest game as a on its own, he was head and shoulders the man of the match, and he was the only reason why we got a point out of the game.
Yeah, in the pantomime villain, Morgan Gibbs-White we managed to keep him quiet. I think Wolves fans have probably sort of realised now that if we jeer him a little, too much, he will probably have the last laugh, which we've seen many, many times. He had a great chance. I think it was in the first half, right in front of the Wolves fans, where he hit the side netting with the header, And I think he just sort of, there's a good bit of footage of him sort of sat there looking up at the Wolves fans and having a laugh to himself as well. Mosquera again in there as well. I think had a good little battle with him at times throughout the game. But I mean, it's probably 90 minutes. We won't be getting back anytime soon. I mean, overall, if you're a neutral watching that game, I do feel sorry for you because there wasn't a lot in it. And I mean, we talk about the amount of attempts and efforts that Nottingham Forest had. Like I said earlier on, there weren't too many that would have got too many people excited, other than that sort of counter-attack, which they completely cocked up and probably summed up Sean Dyche's time at the club as well. But yeah, 0-0 draw, another point on the road. I mean, it depends how you look at it. You want to gain points, of course. Clean sheet is always nice, but yeah, the overall performance definitely needs a massive improvement for our next Premier League game against Arsenal. However, lads, we'll move on to the today's win in the FA Cup, a Sunday afternoon at Grimsby Town. In terms of conditions, probably one of the worst pitch conditions I've seen for a long, long time. Add that to the fact that they're meant to be hosting Walsall on Wednesday, which I would not be surprised to see get postponed, considering the condition of that pitch. Tom, going into this one, like George said, I think there was a little bit of pressure on the team and on Rob Edwards. But I think overall, it's not particularly a performance that you're going to be sort of looking for a microscope at. I think it's that, you take into condition, you look into the condition, of the pitch, the quality and form of both teams. I think despite the divisions, you've got to take that into consideration as well. I think that's one of those games today where you want to rock up, get the win, and go home as quick as you can.
No, definitely. I mean, like you said, just in that little, preview there, it had sort of all the hallmarks that you'd expect for that sort of FA Cup upset, really. Terrible pitch. They don't want it sort of attitude. All these Premier League players that come down to these, pitches. Good in-form League Two side against an out-form bigger team. We've seen this so many times over the years in the FA Cup. It happens. And just glad to come out of it unscathed, to be honest. I was quite nervous for this game. I think, due in part to what you both said, really. I agree with Jordan. I think there's a lot of pressure on this game for Rob Edwards, particularly. I think if you lose that game, I mean, it's like, then you really have to question, is there actually, the sort of the mentality, right? We talk about a losing mentality and not letting that settle in to the side. So, for us, it was, as fans, I think it was just nice to see a bit of grit, because the players did really have to dig in for that, because there was moments where, I mean, that Santi Bueno tackle at the end of the game to deny that chance was an unbelievable bit of defending. Seriously, seriously good. Finishing was questionable. There's a few chances. Armstrong could have scored. Mane had a decent chance as well. Tolu did all right. But I think overall, honestly, the team performance was pretty solid. Mosquera was scaring me, I'll be honest with you. He was on a yellow and he showed no signs of slowing down in terms of getting into physical duels, which was a little bit concerning considering the lack of depth at centre-back. But look, another clean sheet. Really great finish as well by Bueno. So I mentioned the tackle, but it was hits off his shin, but, it's good instincts. Still our top scorer for the season.
Yeah.
So he's doing all right for himself.
Yeah.
Just happy to be through to the next round. Hopefully we get a good draw. But yeah, I think considering everything that you said at the start there, I'm just happy to just get the win, just get out of there, to be honest.
Yeah, I think anyone that watched the preview on YouTube, well, I think Grimsby are unbeaten in 10. I think they've kept 8 clean sheets in their last 9. And regardless of whatever division you're in, George, they're going to be up for it. They're going to be a good opposition. They knocked out the Premier League opposition in the Carabao Cup in Manchester United, and they came out and attacked. They could have sat deep and just frustrated the life out of Wolves, but they gave it as good as they got. I've seen in terms of match stats, it sort of differs a little bit from platform to platform. But if I'm just looking on the sort of the Google result here, I mean, there was only one shot on target throughout the whole game, and that was the goal for Wolves. So it was by no means a classic, but possession was pretty equal. But I mean, George, you've probably played your fair share of Sunday League, and you probably played on pitches similar sort of quality, but 9 times out of 10, you rock up on a Sunday morning and the pitch is like that, it probably gets called off. So, I mean, as a Premier League team, I suppose it's not an excuse. It's so difficult to get the ball down and play, isn't it, when you've got conditions like that?
100%. And I think I couldn't believe, I didn't look at social media, throughout the game, really, because of being on the Discovery Plus after watching it on the internet. So it's like a couple of minutes behind. So I just left my phone away and come on Twitter after the game, and like the amount of Wolves fans that were bemoaning the lack of quality and Edwards has got to go and all this sort of stuff. At half time or points during the game saying there's no quality on here. It's like, what are you expecting them to do on that pitch? Like today, for me, as soon as you rock up, well, before today, like I say, it's a massive pressure game for Rob Edwards and the team, I thought, because you expected to go and win, and that's not happened for the majority of the parts of this season. You then throw the weather into it, which is a massive factor in the game. I don't care what anyone says. Like, yeah, you're right. It was like watching a Sunday League game. Like I've played on better. There's been better pitches than that. I've turned up and tried to play on, and the ref said no, we're not playing on it today. So it's a massive reduce in that aspect. And the one thing that could have happened was actually, a lot of the team look at it and go, you know what, well, we don't quite fancy this, because all today was a attritional battle, and it was all about getting in the hat for the next round, especially on that sort of pitch. Like, I don't know what some fans expected and saying there's a lack of quality and we should be carving Grimsby open. The pitch was like fucking Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings. You couldn't pass the ball on that or even try and play any football. It was attritional football, percentage football, and whoever scored the first goal was going to win just because the conditions were that bad. So I just don't buy into this whole thing of, fans are expecting us to go there. Go there on that pitch, look at that pitch at 1:29 today and going, oh, we should pass them off the park. You're never going to do that. Like, if Arsenal went there today in those conditions, it'd have been a similar game. It'd have just been, right, we're 1-11, we've got to be up for it. We've got to battle, because it's not necessarily a football game. And yeah, again, Wolves fans bemoaning quality in the squad and quality on the pitch and Rob Edwards' tactics and all this sort of stuff. Like, in all due respect, if you're looking for quality on the pitch, like, you've seen what's gone on all season. It's like, listening to a Stevie Wonder album, the second album comes out and going, fucking hell, he's still blind. Like, obviously, we know there's no quality on this fucking team. I don't know what you're expecting to change. There's no transfer window. There's nothing else that can change from now until May. The football's going to be shit. It's going to be turgid. We have to play in a very one-style, one-dimensional way, because it's the only way it gives us chances to get anything out of football games. And that will be playing 5-3-2, and it's going to be horrible. Yeah, we go and do it today. I think, the application of the players was on top. I thought mentality-wise, they battled with Grimsby physically all over the pitch from minute 1 to minute 90. When they had a chance, they took it, in terms of from Santi Bueno. Yeah, look, there's a couple of half chances where, Armstrong had a good chance, and we mentioned that already, but, I said out to him, someone said to me, oh, they battered us. And I'm like, I don't think there was any sustained pressure for us at any point in that game, at all. Granted, possession stats might say they had more of the ball, but the ball was most of the time was 12 foot in the air because you couldn't play on the ground. So it doesn't matter what the possession stats say ultimately in that instance. So yeah, look, for me, I give them a lot of credit that they got through that tie today. I really do, especially on that sort of pitch. And you're on a hiding for nothing. There's a lot of pressure, and they've gone up there in horrible conditions. They've gone and won 1-0. They've kept another clean sheet. I don't think Sam Johnson really had to make a save. I think Sam Johnson had he was the only player that didn't have any mud on him. So it just shows really the job the defensive, as a defensive unit, how we defended in the game. And ultimately, it's not a classic. No one's going to look back at that game and go, oh, we want to watch that on the highlights. So it just doesn't matter. You're in the hat, you move on. And I think, again, when you look at comparing it to, teams in and around us in the Premier League this weekend, Burnley got and lost to Mansfield 2-1. West Ham needed extra time to play Burton, to beat Burton, should I say.
So beat Salford 2-0 as well, by the way. And that was at their own
yeah,
stop.
That's what I'm saying. So, does it matter? You're in the hat. It doesn't matter. And actually, we've done it by not having to play extra time. There's been no injuries. And for me, from a defensive output, it was relatively comfortable because Sam Johnson hasn't had to make a meaningful save. So
yeah. He made the only save he had to make was right at the death, header straight at him, I think. And he probably did get a bit of money on him, actually, George, because he went to get I think he went to keep the ball in at one point, and the condition was that bad. He literally slid 5 or 10 yards and the ball went out. That was right. That was right. For where I was, and the face he pulled was like, shit,
Yeah, I saw
like,
that on Twitter,
this condition is bad. One of the things, I mean, going back to what we said about social media, obviously everyone sees the game in different ways. Thankfully, I think a lot of Wolves fans that I have seen have sort of understood it. And going back to what I said at the start, sort of, you got to sort of look at the game and read the game for what it is. You know, awful conditions. You just want to get in and get out, and that's ultimately what Wolves did. There was no way, with a slightly better pitch, Wolves could have rocked up and scored 3 or 4 goals. They could have, but not many teams would have scored many goals on that pitch today. The quality wasn't good. And Tom, in terms of the subs as well, I think Rob only made one sub, which was Bellegarde, right at the end of the game for Andre, who's on a booking. I mean, again, there's not a lot of quality and not a lot of depth on the pitch. I suppose you'll want to try and keep some of those players, like your wing backs and maybe Angel Gomez, sort of a little bit fresher for Wednesday. But I think he just wanted to keep it as solid as he could and consistent as he could without having to change too many things on in conditions like that.
Yeah, 100%. And to be honest, those sorts of games, I think tactics aren't the be all and end all. Like we've said, it's about, at the end of the day, just grit and actually battling with grit. And that, Football League teams are more physical. They are going to get in your face. They're going to be more aggressive. It's, a more sort of traditional British style of play. So at the end of the day, yeah, I think I didn't have any issues with him keeping players on the pitch. In a game like that, you don't want to sort of mess around too much and overcomplicate things. And I thought the team were playing well. We had a decent-ish rhythm. The players that were on the pitch fought well. They were, they didn't let, Grimsby sort of walk over them, or they were very much up for the challenge. And if you're looking at the players that are on the bench, it's quite lightweight as well. I mean, Angel Gomez, is he really going to do anything in that game when his best quality is his close ball control and his passing? When, on a pitch like that, his ball control instantly goes out the window because it's sticking everywhere. And, potentially the passing. But again, Grimsby are going to mop that up. They've got a very good defence. So, yeah, I didn't have any issues with that. I was a little bit surprised that Mateus Mane played another 90 minutes. He's clocked up a few now. I think that's 5 or 6 in a row. He's playing a lot of football. But I mean, Rob Edwards knows better than us. He's a Premier League manager. But yeah, that was probably my only surprise that he didn't bring off Mane a little bit earlier just to kind of rest him. He hasn't really had any rest. So, but yeah, apart from that, no complaints. Like Jord said, I think the team just put in the performance they needed to put in to win. And, messing around with tactics and substitutions and stuff to try and really, make, they aren't going to make a difference, especially with the depth that we had on the bench as well. So, yeah, no complaints there.
I've seen a lot of people mention that about Mane as well, and I think there was a few people moaning that he started. And I do get your point, because we've seen it quite a lot with younger players and sort of overplaying as well. But George, surely if you're better players, which Mateus Mane is, if he's fit and the physical and medical team say he's okay to play and the player wants to play, you just play him at this stage?
Yeah, I think he's getting to that point now. And I know we flagged it on this podcast a few weeks ago about him starting every game and playing every game. But ultimately, the sports scientists and people in the background at Compton that will be monitoring all the player load and everything like that. So if he's nowhere near a danger zone, as they call it, then they're going to play him, because he is the shining light in this team at the moment. So I understand why he keeps playing. I think, there's an argument that looking at a pitch today and thinking, what, again, you're not going to be able to play football on that today, really. Is there a need to play him? But then, yeah, like you say, you look at who else could have played instead of him. Like, Bellegarde's just come back from injury and only just getting back to fitness. Was it a game for Bellegarde today? Probably not. Like, Angel Gomez, respectfully, is 4'7", and is he going to be and about 8 stone wet through? Like, is he going to be up for the? Is he going to be someone you can play today? No, it's not going to make an impact on the game. So, that's why he's played by default. Ultimately, today would have been a really good game for someone like if he's still around here, someone like Abubakar Traore. But we know where he is. He's out on loan and stuff. So, yeah. Look, we haven't got many options, and that is literally the truth. I thought as well before we move on as well. I actually thought, like I say, I thought both wing backs were up for it today as well. Again, Stuart and Moller Wolf have had stick at times this season. Some just, some a little bit unjust, but I'll give them credit where credit's due. I thought both of them today, played relatively well when you factor in the conditions as well. I think it's worth pointing out because people are quick enough to slag them off when they get an opportunity. I actually thought both of them played quite well today.
Yeah, Muller Wolf took some kicks as well. It was a quite nasty tackle in the first half. You guys may have seen it a little bit better, but the Chura, I think the thing is with him, defensively, he's always been okay. And I think the reason fans get frustrated is because he doesn't use his best attribute, which we know is his pace. But I think we saw that a little bit more today. Look, he was never going to be able to run 20 yards down the line with the ball because it would have been like running in quicksand. But a couple of the quality of the crosses were okay, to be fair, throughout the game. So I think you are right there. Tough conditions. Santi Bueno gets the job done, and you get out of there. But Wolves, like we said, are in the hat for the 5th round. Some tough teams still in there. Some favourable ties perhaps still in there. Wolves will be ball number 12 on Monday evening for that. Tom, if I quickly read the teams that are still in it, let me know who you fancy. You've got Liverpool, Fulham, Sunderland, Southampton, Wrexham, Arsenal, Chelsea, West Ham, Mansfield Town, Norwich, Port Vale or Bristol City. Obviously, ourselves are in there. Newcastle, Man City, Macclesfield or Brentford or Leeds United.
That's a tough one, that. For me, it's probably between City, Man City or Macclesfield, maybe. No.
Don't be serious then.
No, definitely not. I'd say, yeah, Macclesfield or Mansfield at home. Surely that's the best you're going to get. I know, Macclesfield and Mansfield have both beaten Premier League opposition, but is it Lincoln maybe the last team that beat multiple opposition? I feel like Lincoln
got to a quarter final, didn't they?
Yeah,
I think they beat Burnley, didn't they?
They did, yeah. I think that's. I don't know if they beat successive Premier League. I can't quite remember if they beat successive Premier League teams. But look, I think those two. You get either of those at home. Surely you got to be rubbing your hands for.
There's still some champ teams in there. I mean, you ideally you want to avoid a Premier League team. I know it's not a foregone conclusion. You're going to get through to the quarter final, or whatever. But you've got Southampton in there, who you fancy yourself. Wrexham, although they are on a bit of a high, you probably fancy yourself against them. Mansfield, like you said. Norwich, you said. Port Vale or Bristol City have got to play each other. And then Macclesfield, they've still got to beat Brentford. So I think you avoid a Premier League team. You hope like Arsenal, City get each other, or Chelsea, Arsenal, whatever. You live in an ideal world, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, or something like that in the next round would be ideal. But we'll wait and see. Jord, any of those you fancy, or similar to what Tom's just said there?
At this point, you just want the easiest fixture at home. So. Yeah. Whether that's Mansfield, whether that is Macclesfield, if they somehow come across beat Brentford, or even I think Port Vale are playing Bristol City now on the Tuesday.
March, is it?
I think it's the Tuesday before the 5th round.
Flipping
so because I think there's like a massive fixture congestion going on at the moment because there's an international break as well coming up. So it's just I'm sure they're playing them the Tuesday before the start of the 5th round. So Port Vale. If they get through, that's all you want. Ultimately, we need a bit of luck. Knowing our luck, we're probably going to go to the Etihad in the 5th round. That should be typical Wolves luck, really, for that to happen. But even some of these championship teams that have got stuff to play for, they'll make whole host changes. I know, like Wrexham got through against Ipswich on Friday, but I think both teams made like 10, 11 changes. Wrexham obviously going for the playoffs.
Grimsby did today, to be fair, didn't they? They changed 4 first teams for Wednesday. Yeah.
That's the one. I guess that is the one benefit of us being as shit as we've been this season, is that realistically we don't have to rotate or anything. We can literally just focus on this competition. Whereas even if you get some of the Prem sides, if you've got a West Ham, for example, they'd probably heavily rotate. If you've got anyone going for like the Europa League spots, that there's chances are that they'll be rotating, or they're going deep in the Champions League. So I actually think it probably doesn't necessarily matter too much who we get. Obviously you do want one of these like League Two sides, or even Macclesfield if they got through at home, but don't think really, how it's gone, how the season's going. If we put our strongest team out against a reserve Premier League side, and again, dare I say it, this might come back to bite me on the arse, we should fancy it a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
But let's see who we get tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be Arsenal away as well. Can't wait.
Yeah, difficult.
Yeah. Well, talking of Arsenal, actually, a nice little segue into this week's fixture. Wolves host Arsenal on a rescheduled fixture due to them being in the Carabao Cup final. 18th of Feb, my birthday, frustratingly, so I've got to spend it watching Wolves at Molineux. Let's really hope they surprise us and get 3 points. But, Tom, been a little bit ropey recently, Arsenal. I mean, still showing the qualities and they're still leading the pack at the moment at the top of the table. But what are you thinking going into this one?
I don't know what really to feel, to be honest, because I still, I mean, we really deserved a point at the Emirates. That was for me, one of the best performances we've put in this season. Relative to the level of opposition and the scoreline and the fact that we only lost because we conceded 2 own goals. So there's a universe in which I really fancy this in terms of like if we just sit in and defend as well as we did in the reverse fixture and just nick something. There's a chance that we get a draw, to be honest. Our win is, I think, very, slightly out of the question. But yeah, I think you've just got to try and play for a draw. That's the best you're going to get. Arsenal are, like you say, they're a funny team because weirdly, if you put them under pressure, if you get at them, they can be got at, but we just don't have the quality. Like Brentford were fantastic in their last game, but they have the quality to put Arsenal under pressure, and they've had a very good record against the Big Six at home this season, whereas our home record is terrible against every team. So I think there's a chance for us in there, honestly, if we just get a bit of luck, defend like we did in the last game, and maybe try and hit them on the break. There is a chance that we can grab something, which would be a monumental upset. But you've got to go into at this point you just got to go into games and just hope that something happens. We've not had a lot to cheer about this season, but just considering how well we played against them last time, I feel like there's the slight mental edge where Arsenal know we're going to make it really, really terrible for them. Just a terrible game. Like Mosquera's going to claim every little thing. He's going to go down at every opportunity. Santi Bueno thrives in those sorts of games. He's a very good box defender. Krejci is always, a reliable figure. So, I think we've got decent pace on the break as well. You got Rodrigo Gomez who's come back into the fold. Armstrong and Tolu. It's another game for them to potentially, sort of get some chemistry as well. So, and then even with the midfield makeup we've got a little bit more about us actually in possession than we did in the reverse fixture. Whether he goes with Gomez Andre or Gomez, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like we could maybe get a point if we're at the same level defensively as we were last time.
This is the optimism, Jord, that me and you have shown in various fixtures, and then we look like absolute idiots come the next pod. But are you taking an absolutely honking 0-0 like we saw last Wednesday, Jord?
I'll be honest with you, I think we're going to get fucking hammered. I just can see it. I think Arsenal are going to want to give us one after what happened at the Emirates. I know. Granted, they come through it in the end, but we managed to frustrate them. I think we managed to hold them for large parts of that game. I can Brentford. They've slipped up against Brentford in last midweek. I watched them against Wigan today for the first half, and they put Wigan to the sword. And you can say it's a League One opposition, but some would say we're League One opposition at the moment as well. So I can see nothing other than us getting hammered, unfortunately. And I think, again, I know we've said it a few times, I wouldn't actually be surprised if this is the game you see Mane get a rest or Mane not start. Because I think he might just look at it and just go, well, if I can put Andre, Gomez and Gomez next to each other, again, as flat as that midfield three is, we can somewhat sort of compete at that point then and try and bring Mane on a little bit later on and try and win it if we're still in the game. But yeah, I just can't see anything other than us getting comfortable defeat, to be honest with you. And I'm a little bit conflicted with FPL because our triple captain Timber, and because I thought we might get 2 clean sheets. Now they didn't get one against Brentford. I'm like, well, still got Wolves to play this week, right? So
you've wondered at what cost.
yeah, exactly.
FPL is always like that, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I just I hope we go and beat them 2 or 3-0, honestly. But I can just see us getting a pasting, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Arsenal, their recent, obviously they beat Wigan in the FA Cup this weekend quite comfortably. In the end, the last few, I'm saying that the Emirates, I'm completely wrong. I was going to say that they're getting by in beating teams, but not by many goals. But the last couple of games, ignoring the Brentford result, they beat Leeds 4-0, they beat Sunderland 3-0. So they have got goals in them. We know they've got goals in them. Yeah. So, it's one of them, like Wolves. There's only a few times this season where Wolves have been scoreline wise absolutely battered. I think Arsenal are the type of team that Wolves can frustrate, and I think the longer that you go keeping Arsenal at bay, I think the better. Really, obviously you saw today the 4 quick goals that they got against Wigan. Just looking as well. I think you get into half-time level or a 0-0, you got every chance to try and do something. I think the frustrating thing with Wolves is against Chelsea, against Manchester City, you're conceding goals before half-time and you're just giving yourself mountains to climb, especially against teams of this calibre. So I think if Wolves want anything from this game, they have to keep it as quiet as possible. I'm so interested to see what he will do line-up-wise, George, because he could do what you've just said there and bring Andre in for Mane, for argument's sake. But that is so one-dimensional, isn't it? Just in terms, not just the midfield, the rest of the team. Who are you going to give the ball to in that 11 that is going to get you up to the Arsenal goal mouth? There's absolutely nobody. So this is the issue, and I think we can praise the January window a little bit, but there's still just a massive gaping hole where there's just so little creativity in this Wolves team at the moment.
They didn't bring enough in January, ultimately, and again, I was someone who's advocating that actually don't bring anyone in January.
Yeah.
And I know people disagree with that because I think there's a big argument to say shouldn't bring people into a losing mentality, losing culture that, we know how this season's going to go. And maybe it's a bit defeatist, maybe it was giving up a little bit. But, the only good thing they did in this January window was clawing good money for players that they didn't want or wanted to leave. But it's only a good window from a fan's perspective if you go and replace that with, quality. And I think Angel Gomez looks a good player. I think Adam Armstrong, I'm not so sure in terms of now. I've seen him a couple of times now.
He's not showing anything yet, has he?
I think next season he'll be fine. But then, is it, if he comes here and, if he doesn't get many goals from now until the end of the season, going into next season, is he someone that you're going to hang your hat on getting you 20 goals next season?
Well, it's an easy escape. We said it a few weeks ago. The issue is you bring in players in January, the chances are they don't hit the ground running between now and the summer, and then it's your scapegoat for next year straight away.
Yeah.
6 months of them is shit.
Yeah, and losing. And that sort of is my mindset with it all now. The reason why there's large sections of the fan base who say it's shit is because they don't trust Foden to go and spend big in the summer. And again, on recent transfer window history, I would say you're absolutely right. I think the only difference being within this is that there has been some communication with fans this time around from the club, and they are saying that they want to bully themselves out the Championship and spend big. But talk's cheap, and we'll see, if the money is where the mouth is come the summer. And again, we said it last week, right? I think they need to do business pre-World Cup. You can't use a World Cup as an excuse. We know that this squad's going to be decimated. It needs to be decimated. We need to add quality. So they need to act fast, get some in before the World Cup. And naturally, it will be slowed then during the World Cup. But, you've got to do that quickly.
Yeah, it's got to be a proactive summer, and ultimately, you still look at the Premier League table. There's going to be a big team coming down with us, so there's going to be big competition for players, big competition for promotion, because there'll be other teams that won't get promoted that are going to be up for it next season and improve as well. So it will be a very, very tough summer and a tough start to the season, more than likely in the Championship as well. Before the next pod as well, Wolves will face off against Crystal Palace. That's away from home. Best of luck to anyone going to Selhurst Park. I've done that before on a Sunday, and it's probably the worst day of my life. So best of luck if you are doing that. Tom, a little bit of a transition for Palace. Life under Glasner has been a little bit strange recently, but obviously some big signings for them. Jorgen Strand-Larsen, likely to come back to haunt us perhaps, but they had a bit of a shocker last week in the league, going 2-0 up, ended up losing 3-2 to Burnley. Never embarrassed ourselves at Selhurst Park, to be honest, and I suppose you never really know what sort of Crystal Palace you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, they've been very inconsistent since the turn of the year. Well, they've been consistently poor, but I do think they have flashes of brilliance, as we saw in the 2 goals that they scored to take the lead against Burnley. 2 very good goals, 2 very good finishes. Shock, you give Strand-Larsen some service and he scores goals. Who would have thought that? Yeah. It's not like we've been screaming that for about 4 or 5 months. For me, this has got Strand-Larsen goal written all over it. I've never been more convinced that of a player coming back to bite us than this. It's going to happen. It's going to. I mean, you take Wolves' record of players haunting us out of it, I mean, that in itself is pretty bad. But he's a quality centre forward, and we concede a lot of goals. So I think we're going to have to probably score at least 1 or 2 to get something out of it. I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, to be honest. It's a tough game. It is a tough game. But again, we're talking about teams that we can frustrate. Palace are definitely a team that we can frustrate because, especially at home, there's already a lot of discontent and there's a lot of background noise with Palace this season, a lot more than before. I mean, usually the biggest talk was always, Zaha, is he going to go? Where's he going to go? That was always the big. But now you've got Kamada, who's out of contract. You've got Glasner, who's out of contract. You had the whole Gay situation. It just seems to be a bit of unrest. And that Burnley game, they just completely collapsed, which is very unlike them, especially in the manner in which they did it. It was like 3 goals in 5-6 minutes. So I think they're a team that we can get at, honestly. I think if again, we're talking about a lot of these games the same way, but it comes to the same thing. If Wolves can just be compact and frustrate Palace, and the fans are going to get aggy, and the players are going to get aggy because within that bad this season, every team's fan base expects their team to turn up and beat us, which is not a good position to be in. But at this point now, what Wolves need to do is they just need to be that really terrible team that that they're really bad. But because of that, we just sit in, we frustrate the life out of them. And then if we can get some chances on the counter-attack, I think we've got, a chance to get something. And it's a ground that we've won games at before. We had a really good record in London, in the first few years of the Prem. Obviously, we're not in that era anymore. But again, like I said, that's what we said with the Arsenal game and the Forest game. You should try and shut these teams out, and you've got every chance of getting scrapping something out of the game. But yeah, just fingers crossed that Strand-Larsen doesn't score. But I have a feeling that is going to happen.
A spike in bets in the Wolverhampton area. Strand-Larsen scoring any time on Sunday morning.
That is a guaranteed goal.
Jordan, we were there at Selhurst Park. We probably mention this every season when the Hugo Bueno masterclass assisting for Adama. In the end, I think they did beat us. I think that, going back to what Tom said, Zaha rocking up for that game. Not my favourite away ground in the world, but yeah, Glasner. I mean, he's got a few months left in charge of Palace. It just seems to, as an outsider looking in, he just seems to be someone that doesn't really give a shit at the moment with what's going on. I think they'll stay in the Premier League. I mean, they're only 5 points. Tell a lie, 8 points above the drop zone. So I think they'll be absolutely fine. But I mean, they've not been outstanding this season, have they?
No, and I think how Glasner's gone about stuff, I think he thinks he's going about it in the right way, but for his public, for his own personal brand, Oliver Glasner's looking after Oliver Glasner.
Yeah.
When it comes to him then managing your football club, as a Palace fan, I'd be fuming really. On the back of them winning an FA Cup last season, I think it was the first time they ever won any sort of meaningful silverware, and then you can't air your dirty laundry in public as a manager. And I think the reason why he's still got that job is because they don't want to pay him off, ultimately. And I think, I do think he's got cause for it. I think, selling Eze on the eve of the season, then selling Mark Gay, and it looked like they were going to get rid of Mark Gay in the summer until he blocked it. And literally did throw his toys out the pram at that point. There's a lot of upheaval. There's been a lot of turmoil at Palace, and it's a shame, really, because as a neutral, not saying yeah, you're right. Anytime we go to Selhurst Park, it's a shit to get to, and it ain't great experience to go there as an away fan. But actually from afar, I've actually quite liked Crystal Palace over the last few years. How they play, and they've always as a neutral, watching them on telly, they've always been a little bit exciting to watch, if you ask me. But yeah, I think Tom's right. I think there is an opportunity on Sunday that you can go there and be the party poopers again and spoil it from just being compact and rigid and horrible to play against. Because there is a bit of unrest there. The fans aren't exactly enamoured with the team at the moment, and they're going to be coming back off the back of a game. I believe they're playing. I want to say they're playing in Belgrade on Thursday night in a qualifier. I know they're away somewhere Eastern European way. So again, come on. I'm not sure where they're from.
Long trip that.
Bosnia. So I knew it was Eastern Europe. Yeah. So yeah, like again, you have that element into it as well, where they're going to have to play the strongest team in that game. It's difficult, right? They've only got a small squad, so there's a lot of factors saying that we can possibly go there and upset the party, but then you realise what version of the Wolves team are in front of us at the moment and go, well, yeah, probably not. But yeah, time will tell. Let's see.
Yeah, well, a couple of long afternoons and evenings coming up for us this week, I've no doubt anyway, watching Rob Edwards' ball at Molineux and at Selhurst Park as well. Let's jump on to the questions, lads, to finish off as well. We've got a couple of FA Cup type questions. Irish Wolf, he says obviously it depends on draws, but surely there's a case just to abandon the league at this stage, shift the focus entirely on the FA Cup. We'd probably pick up the required 3 points from the remaining 36 to surpass Derby. So we've got 5 cup finals to go, and then random folks says, is there an actual possibility of reaching the FA Cup final? Tom, I suppose, like Irish Wolf said, it probably does depend on draws a little bit, but you beat you next game, you get a favourable draw, you win that, and then you're into the last 8. You never know. We've not had an awful record in the FA Cup, and I think luck has been against us a little bit. Gary O'Neill with injuries, probably a huge reason we didn't advance against Coventry. Mateus Cunha losing his head against Bournemouth being another one of those reasons to stop us from progressing last year. Stranger things have happened, I suppose, in football.
Yeah, definitely. I think us winning a trophy this season, I mean, to be fair, you could make a case that...
By the way, absolutely stink out the Premier League and somehow win our first piece of silverware.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say. It is kind of like you can make a case for this being typical Wolves. The one season that we're absolutely terrible, we do win the FA Cup. If this team wins an FA Cup and that Nuno team doesn't, obviously didn't, I mean, that is just like, you can't make it up.
Travesty.
I think Rob Edwards has just got a channel. He's in at Ange Postecoglou. I mean, he just sacked off the Premier League to win the Europa League, basically. Yeah. I think he's just got he's got aura farm, as the kids say these days, his way to an FA Cup win. I mean, look, we have been a team under him that are defensively pretty solid and can nick a goal on a counter, So it's knockout football is probably our best chance of actually getting some sort of a run together, because with teams that are usually pretty good defensively, knockout football is usually a strength that that they have. I mean, to be honest, I think Arsenal are definitely one of those teams that could probably do a cup double this season, just because they're that good defensively and they just know how to win games. That for knockout football, it's great. But for us, I mean, yeah, like you said, is it? We're one game away from a cup quarter final now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Fifth round and then the quarter final.
Now, yeah.
Yeah. So you get a decent tie. Like George said, some Premier League teams, they're probably going to sack it off. They might, be like, oh, Wolves in the cup. Yeah, we'll just chuck out, backup team or whatever. all of a sudden, we've been there the past few seasons. You get to that quarter final, and all of a sudden you're a game away from Wembley, and it changes then. And then it's like you realise, when it's only one game, it's a lot easier. You've just got to get through that 90 minutes of football, and you're in to a quarter final, then a semi final, then a final. It's a different type of game. I think that kind of suits the kind of way that we have to play at the moment. So yeah, like you said, stranger things have happened. Leicester have won the league. Would this be Wolves' greatest achievement, to win an FA Cup with this team? Who knows?
Probably. It probably would be. And I think, Jord, considering the negativity in and around the football club at the moment, I think you start winning football games in this cup, and I think fans are so desperate for any type of silverware. Fans will be up for these games, definitely. And I think going back to the question, I think fans will be on board with that. If there's a genuine possibility, draws go our way, fans will be up for it and up for Wolves, and the momentum and the atmosphere will be so much better at Molineux if you can start winning football matches in the FA Cup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. I think actually, as mad as it is, if we go and win the FA Cup and got relegated, if you got offered that at the start of the season, I think 95% of Wolves fans take it. I certainly would. Yeah. I just think it's comical, the thought of this team, this version of the Wolves team, potentially getting an open top bus parade around Wolverhampton with an FA Cup. Yeah. I think, I reckon Jeff Shea would be driving the bus saying, "Look, I'm the master plan."
Vitor Pereira statue.
Yeah, look, strange things happen, haven't they? Strange things have happened. Wigan won it and went down a few years ago, right, as well. So it can be done. Blues won the League Cup and went down, so it's not like outrageous to suggest we can go and do it. I just think you've got to get lucky with the draws. And even when you don't, even with some of the draws, at some point you're going to have to get lucky against a good side. And Tom's right, 90-minute game of football, when you can actually just isolate it down to 90 minutes of football, and you can, as a team, you can mentally prepare just to get through that. Defensively, I think we could grind out something against someone good, but yeah, effectively 2 games away from Wembley now, which is, again, on the back of this season's mad.
Yeah, if we go to Wembley though, we have to win. I cannot go to Wembley and watch us lose again. That's just
yeah.
The only thing I will say is though, typically, let's be honest, if we do something, and again, I think we're really massively dreaming here, lads, to even suggest we might get to Wembley. Yeah. If we do get to Wembley, at least we can go with the mentality of we're probably going to get dicked, or we're probably going to lose anyway. So it's a little bit different to that Watford game, and how that was. Like, I still haven't watched that game back ever, and I didn't even go to Wembley for the NFL for a couple of years after that. I was like, I can't. I'll go to. I'm not going to Wembley. I can't revisit Wembley. So, it would be nice to go this year, though. I can't lie.
I mean, we're being that optimistic. We've got another question here to finish off by WWE Master, is called. After Sar's masterclass versus Forest and Bueno's heroics today, it feels like a bit of an AI question, by the way. I don't know why it's worded like this. Is this gritty siege mentality enough to spark a miracle survival, or did selling Strand Larsen in January leave us too toothless to bridge the gap to safety? So basically he's saying, do you think if we carry on battling like this, we'll stay in the Premier League? I think there's a simple answer. Go on, Jord.
I think the fact we sold Strand Larsen is the reason why we can't stay up. If that's part of his question, now I'm joking.
I think that shows the fact that we're resigned probably to cash in on.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If we manage to stay up from this point on, like, they'll be making Hollywood movies about us. It's like it'd be like a Rocky story or a Mighty Duck story. I'm not even joking you that look. If anything, I just think that gap's going to get bigger. So rather than just closing it, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think there's literally 0% chance.
Yeah. Wow. There we go. That is all for today. I enjoyed that, boys. I appreciate you jumping on. Fingers crossed next week. It's another podcast talking about 2 games and without Wolves getting a defeat. Let's cross our fingers. Tom, thanks for jumping on, mate. Where can people find you if they wish?
Tom_Parker12 on Twitter. And if you would love to get into some Japanese football action to take you out of the Wolves sphere, then Tom Talks J League on TikTok. Thank you very much.
Perfect, mate. Thank you very much. Jord, I'll let you get to bed now, but where can people find you if they wish?
They won't find me at Sellers Park on Sunday, I'll tell you. Jord was 7 on Twitter and Instagram.
Perfect, mate. I'm at Dave as a party everywhere, and we're at Talking Wolves everywhere. If you want to keep up to date with the latest Wolves news, you can find us on all of those socials. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, feel free to leave us a 5-star review. Enjoy the games this week, guys. Fingers crossed. We do see a little bit of positivity, but we'll be back next week. As always, enjoy your week, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.